Good morning. Okay, let's start Monday with our good gratitude stuff. Let's get everybody rolling in here as people come in. Anybody grateful for anything?
Oh, me.
Oh, you win the prize today. Go, go,
Me,
go.
me. I am so very grateful for the hard work that paralegals do to make things happen. A closing that is 3-4 months past due because of probate is finally closing this week.
Oh, wow, that's terrific. Gosh, sometimes these escrow periods we think are long when we start, and then we have something like that go on. That's insane. So, congratulations.
Thank you. My clients are extremely happy.
I bet. Not like there's no anxiety in buying a house or selling a house anyway for poor people, right?
Right. Yeah,
Throw something fun like that in and let's just mess up all your plans.
exactly.
That's crazy. Well, we're grateful for you and thankful. That's awesome. Anybody else have anything you're grateful for today?
Hey, I want to go. So, first of all, I love the real estate industry because of the people who are in it. So I'm so lucky to know Ty Lusk and Kimberly and Sharp Chen, of course. But I had the opportunity to have lunch with Steve Valentine and see his new digs. Oh man, you all need to go see it. I think he is ahead of the curve on this thing of how real estate is heading. So big thanks to Steve for hosting me.
Ta-da. Such a cute picture of you guys too, by the way.
Yeah,
I like that.
I cropped it so I look better.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm gonna let you do all my photos then. You have one that just like shrinks, like sucks from behind and
Right.
just sucks it all back in.
That's what we need. That's what we need.
Welcome to my current world. Oh my gosh, that's super funny. I love it. Well, good for you. Anybody else grateful for anything today?
Yeah, I'll go. I just have a life full of really cool people, and everyone in it just brings me great value, and hopefully it's mutual. But it's just nice. It's not the case for everyone, I don't think, to have just good quality people around you at all times. So I'm just thankful for that. I'm aware of it this weekend, a lot of time with family and friends. So just thankful for that, of
Very cool.
course. Yeah,
Good people are great.
that's right.
Sucky people suck. So it's nice to not have sucky people in our world. That's pretty funny. That's cute. Yes. All right. Anybody else have anything to be grateful for?
Well, we had a great huddle this morning with our sales team talking about kind of lead contacts and how to turn prospects into friends and clients and kind of ways that we can do that. It was just cool to hear so much experience in the room of success and then sharing that with everybody else and the discussion, like everybody's humble about it, when everybody shares. It was just really cool. I loved being on a team like that.
You know what, Ty? I had a 8 o'clock Zoom this morning with a guy who's in Albuquerque, and he was just talking about kind of this piggybacks on both what you and Jamie just shared, but like this lack of community and how isolating it is, and how he so desires that connectivity with really good people and to be able to brainstorm together. And so it's interesting that you guys kind of shared this back to back, because it was very much the theme of our conversation today. And part of that is knowing who not to have in your life, right? Sometimes it's learning to say no to people that might appear to be somebody that should be on your team or in your life, right? But really having some discernment about, hey, listen, I have some standards for the people who are in my life. And then it opens it up to meetings like what you had, where people are like can feel free to share and brainstorm together and encourage each other. And I don't know, you guys, I that's probably in the last 10 years, that's become a lot more valuable to me, and notably more valuable to me probably than any other time in my life. So it's very fun to be connected with good folks. All right. Anybody else have anything you're grateful for today?
I was a couple of minutes late, so I don't know if Steve already said it, but I'm thankful for the Valentines who helped me with a 1031 exchange that I just don't know anyone else could have helped me figure it out. So I went from one commercial building to now having 4 new single family homes, thanks to the Valentine family and portfolio. So super grateful for that. It's funny that you say about hanging out with the right people, because I think we all know the Jim Rohn quote, right? You're a sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. But I heard I did my big virtual mortgage event, real estate event last week, the Modern Mortgage Summit, and someone said, if you hang around with clowns, you'll end up in a circus. And I thought, all right, that's a good reminder as well.
Listen, well, what if your life's goal is to be in the circus?
All right, then best of luck.
Yeah, right. Good on you. That transaction that you guys, and I use the term transaction. That's not even a fair assessment of what you guys pulled off and put together. And honestly, if our speaker doesn't show up, I'm going to ask the two of you to kind of unwind this, because I think people don't know that you can actually think the way that you guys like strategically built this. It is mind-boggling, honestly. You guys did a great job.
Well, we'd actually have to pull Erica in because Todd and I really didn't do shit.
Well, I believe that fully.
Oh, yeah, pretty funny, but true.
She's amazing. I love it. All right. Anybody else have anything you want to share?
I'm a little bit selfish, but I hope the speaker doesn't show up.
I know. I know. I'm having my own little miniature panic attack over here because I did not realize when I told him that there was the silly time change thing. I that's out of my place. Let me see if I can send him something else. If not, we'll figure it out. Next week, Reagan Nicholson will speak because I won't be here. I am grateful that I am going to Paris. I leave on Wednesday, and we actually are going to do something different this time. We're going to do some trips outside of like the Paris proper. So we're going to Belgium, to Brussels, and to Bruges, and we're going to another part of France, the Reims district. So this will be a different kind of trip for us. So I'm pretty excited about that. Pretty grateful that we have the opportunity to do that. It's been a while since we did that. Okay, let's move really quickly to, I see Jamie. I feel like romper room. I see Jamie. I feel Sharp. I see Todd. All three of our partners here. Any of you want to share anything about what's happening in your world that could be beneficial to our world?
Happy to be here, and Tina Tambor is coming up. Cindy, I'll send you the invite. But if you want one, just add your email in the chat and I'll send you the invite to the Tina Tambor market update.
Get this to come off.
All right. Thank you. Sharp, Todd.
I just wanted to say, I am here to be a resource for you. I'm happy you're going on a vacation, Kimberly. I just did a long weekend myself, and I think it's really important to take time away from work because we're all crazy. Although I did work at the beach, but I think it's very good to take time away and step away because we all need it as much as we work. There has to be a balance in our lives, and I think we need to be reminded balance is good.
I could work like a dog every day at the beach. I have no problem with that at all. I miss the water. So good for you. That's awesome. Mr. Bookspan?
What I would say is, your clients are all rate shoppers. And so I would say maybe you suggest us as the second opinion, because what I'm finding is that that the online rate shopping world is not always what it seems. We just had a client who was given a amazing offer, and then surprise, that they couldn't get it in writing. And so the agent there was originally a Zillow lead. So it went to Zillow Mortgage first, and then it went over to this other magic place that this person found. And then they used us kind of as the pivot to say, well, why don't you, if you want to shop against the other lender, why don't you use someone that I trust? And then they referred it over to us, and we were able to kind of help them unpack interest rates, how they really work, how to comparison shop the right way. And then in the end, we earned the transaction, which gave the agent a lot more confidence because it was a California, $2 million deal that had literally a 2-week close hit and Zillow. So it worked out really well for everybody. So just know, I may not be your first choice, but hey, why not let me be your second choice? Because I do think that you've got clients who are out shopping the competition and you don't want them to end up there.
Yeah, that's a good call. I just remembered since you were talking that I had I took a phone call. I accidentally took a phone call. So here's how this works in my life. I accidentally took a phone call. I thought I was hanging up from another call, and it added the next one that rolled in. And this woman says, I don't know if you remember me, but 10 years ago, maybe even more than that, you sold me my house. I was like, no, no idea. I asked her name, she told me her name. I recognize her last name. Anyway, her life has changed and they want to sell their house. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So, well, that's not entirely true. She needs to figure out financing around some things. So anyway, I was able to connect them with Todd's team, and I think they meet tomorrow together. But kind of fun to be connected to somebody that you haven't been connected with for 10 years and to know that they saved your name and number in their phone. Like to me, I'm just like, shoot, that's crazy. So thank you. Really sweet. So yeah, Bookspan Baker team comes through. Love it. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna jump on because I think I fouled this all up. So I'm sorry about that. So two things that I think that we can do. I'll give him a minute and see if he's gonna bounce in, and then if not, we'll just move on in our life and we'll be better for it. Couple of things that I want to share really quickly. And one of them is like his topic is about being better in your business. He is a corporate speaker, and I'm trying to look really quick at some of my notes from him. I met him at a conference that I went to that was pretty incredible. I think I shared some of it with you guys. But I went to a conference in San Diego, and one of the speakers was this guy who, all of the little kiosks in the airport that you check in on, all that, he's the founder and designer and builder of all of that technology. And one of the things that he shared that I thought was super powerful is it doesn't matter, like, you can have all of these goals and reach all of these things, attain all these levels, but if you don't have things like in order in your life, all of that just causes that chaos. It kind of goes back to Todd's circus comment this morning, right? Like, you can be doing all of the right things in your business, but if you don't have like yourself settled down and in alignment, then I think there's a much bigger struggle to enjoy what you've built. And so I want to encourage you guys to spend a little time looking at your businesses, evaluating them quickly, and being able to say, okay, what do I have that is out of alignment that I need to get in alignment so that the things that I'm doing, that flow can be stronger and more powerful. Because I think when we figure out how much time and energy we spend trying to fix all these little things, we're missing some of the big things in our businesses. And so I just want to, just as a quick side note, I want to share that, looking at examining your business, but examining your life, forget about your business as the main thing. Look at what things are out of order, what things are causing you distress, what things you're spending a lot of time in versus moving on or moving through, and make those things a priority, because when you have that stuff in alignment, some of the rest of what you're struggling with and arm wrestling through in your business will take care of itself. And so I want to encourage you on that. And then I was at a meeting last week in Dallas, and I just want to share something really quickly about culture. We talk a lot about culture. Robert is actually going to speak about culture. So if he's not here today, then we'll get him on a different day. But he does a lot of corporate speaking just around building culture. And I have, some of you know that I used to be an executive at another global real estate company. And then I'm here at Real. And there is a very distinct difference in culture. And this meeting was a meeting of people who were all attractors, people who are building the company, right? And so those meetings at the other organization were all about like upgrading my plane, getting a new yacht. I'm sorry I could only wear 3 of my Rolexes today and not all 12 of them. And it so focused on that materialistic perspective. And I don't think there's anything wrong with spending your money how you want to spend your money and buying fun stuff and good stuff and new stuff and fancy. I don't care how you spend your money. But I'll tell you that I sat in this room with 175 people, Real, and not one time did anybody make any reference to like their material possessions or like, gosh, I'm making all this money in rev share, so now I'm super important and I can, none of that. And I realized when I was flying home and I was reflecting on this, that at the other brokerage, there are people that in that room, they go back and they teach their network, their belief system. And then I sat in this room and those same positioned people are going to go back and teach them their philosophy around it. And that is the fundamental difference between a good culture, a healthy culture, and an unhealthy culture. And so when you can see that people come back, the things that were talked about in that room for 2.5 days were, how can we help agents? How can we make people's lives better? How can we help position them versus look at me, look what I have, look what I've done, look how amazing I am, look how important I am. And it was like a notable difference to be in that cultural shift. And so I want to encourage you that sometimes as things change, I know we have some things changing in real. We have a new broker. So you guys in Arizona, we have a new broker here. We're going to go through some changes, right? But the culture of we care about each other is actually, and not to be a play on words, but it's actually real. It's tangible. You could see it and you could feel it in that room. And so I just, and full transparency, I did not want to go to the event. I had a bad attitude about the event. I don't like a lot of the people that were at that event personally. Like, if I just am going to be really transparent, but here's the truth. I looked at the thematic piece of what our culture looks like, and we do have some really amazing human beings that we're connected with. So Ty, to your point, and Jamie, to your point about being surrounded by really good people, this is where the rubber hits the road, and we have that opportunity to be connected with good people. So anyway, those are the things I wanted to make sure that I shared with you. I am also May 31st, so set that day aside. I have an event that's coming up. I'll tell you about it later, but I at least want it on your calendar. It's a social event, not a you don't have to come sit in a room. We're going to go do something. So just kind of know it's there. I'm waiting for confirmation on some details, and then I will let you know. Okay, so since he's not here, if we can pivot, if you guys are down to pivot, Mr. Valentine, Mr. Bookspan, I would like you to tear apart this transaction, because like I said, I feel like it's a very loose word to call it a transaction, because that sounds like you got a little purchase contract, you got a little earnest money, and then you did an inspection, and then it was over and you funded, and now you have keys. It's not, and I'm not oversimplifying, I am oversimplifying a regular transaction, but this one's nuts. So are you guys open?
Yeah, because at this point, none of us have keys.
That is true. That is true. I've got 11 minutes because I normally don't have anything scheduled this time, but I have to do something with my Exactly What to Say crew that Phil Jones has asked me to do on the mortgage side. But let me set it up, and then you can kind of help fill in some blanks. So I sold my office building. Some of you have been lucky enough to have been to my office space. I loved it. But since COVID, my team wasn't working there. And although it was good for me personally, financially, to have a space that I rented to a mortgage company, it wasn't really good for the P&L of my mortgage team. And so I made the decision to sell the building that I loved and, to be more cost effective. And ironically, I did a 1031 back in 2016, and I ran into the same challenge then, right? I understand single family homes. I don't understand commercial real estate. I looked at, you name it out there, I've looked at it. Oil and gas, and I looked at, commercial and, kind of funds you can exchange into. I looked at the tax consequences of just taking the money and paying taxes on it and having the cash to do whatever the heck I wanted to do with. And just like I did in 2016, I realized single family homes is a thing that I know and I feel confident with, and specifically single family homes here in the Valley. And then I just don't know anyone else who could do what Steve does. So I reached out to him and said, hey, do you have any houses you would want to sell? And it needed to be, if you've ever done a 1031, there's a few different rules of identifying all the properties. And I used a really rare one that's the 95% rule. So once I identified properties, I had to close on 95%. But there's all these different rules that the 1031 intermediary gives you. And I'm assuming you're all familiar with what a 1031 exchange is, just tax deferred exchange. So when I closed on the building, the money went into an escrow account with the 1031 company. I don't touch it. And then they send it all off to the title company to close on these transactions so that I don't have a taxable consequence as a result of doing this. I'm just kicking the can down the road on the depreciation, et cetera. And so really what made it difficult on Steve was I had a few things. Number one is I didn't want to put any more money into it. So I didn't want to put any of my own cash into the deal. So I had a fixed amount of cash. Number two is that I also was a little struggling because the rents were kind of tight and I was worried about repairs. And so that was, kind of one of the challenges. And then, then three was really just going through, a big list of properties and figuring out which ones really made sense and, seeing if Steve could and would help me filter through all of his properties that he bought at some time for some reason, which ones were better than others, to help me make a good decision going forward. So that was sort of the puzzle I threw at Steve. And then, Steve, I don't know if you want to jump in and fill in any blanks and sort of talk through the solution.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to just the conversation and opportunity. When Todd started talking about the 1031 and where he was putting it, I just mentioned that, hey, we're going to get rid of some of the things in our portfolio that already have mortgages in place. So it could allow you to buy more properties. And by the way, buying more properties is just the fact that, sure, he could have dumbed down to maybe 4 or 5 and used that 1031. But when you have 14 properties that are barely making their rents, but the appreciation, the value that was purchased is really where the bigger play was. And so it was fascinating just to give Todd all 100 properties we own and start looking through the mortgages and what made sense, and then come back with a plan. And Todd and I had same things. He didn't want to put any more cash in, and I was trying to bring cash into it. So we're also trying to pad his management accounts to make sure that for future repairs, he doesn't have to come with cost. And so it really was taking a very large math problem, which Erica rocked it. And we had X amount of dollars that had to come in, and X amount of dollars that we wanted in management companies, X amount of cash that I needed. And then when we got down to it, it was the value. We worked around it, and dealing with a friend on all this is really fun because he took over 14 mortgages on a wrap, which means he kept all my existing mortgages at good rates. So that was the other complicated problem. We had to work the math out to get me a certain amount of cash per property in 14, a certain amount of cash that went into each property for property management funds, and then close all these things with all the mortgages and the rents all lined out. And so it's been a fascinating from one place to the next. And I think the biggest thing for all of you that I can really tell you is that as you're interested in this investment game, realize that as you're going through life, the chess pieces can move. It doesn't mean hold on to everything. And there was a problem that I could solve with my portfolio with Todd, which is I just pull it out and go, okay, we're going to create some cash. We're going to create some future equity. I solved Todd's problem, and we got rid of 14 properties where we're trying to navigate into other investment opportunities. So collecting the properties isn't always about, you're not always going to know what to do with them. But at the end, this worked out really, really well where I could solve Todd's problem. And guys, it's really complicated to try to go through $6 million worth of transactions in a 1031 exchange and meet all the requirements and have the trust that both of us had through the process, because there was a lot of loose conversations that we had to work through at the end, but it's because of a trust factor that we were able to go through it. Because the reality is, both of us in the same light, if I told Todd, like, I'm not in agreement with this, Todd's got a tax problem or he has to close on it. So there is a trust factor in that relationship piece. And that's probably, if I could say anything, it's these relationships that you build over decades that come together and you're able to work together and make something happen, and everybody wins and nobody's looking at who's getting paid what. And it's just, it's kind of a beautiful thing when you look through all of it. And this is the second round Todd and I have done.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, it was really the whole idea of being win-win. And I agree, right? I mean, because I've got such a high trust for Steve, it made it that made it a lot easier, because there was the financial risk is at the end, we could have been like, nope, it's done. And then, I would have paid taxes, and, it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world. But my goals of it were to increase my asset footprint, right? So I own, just shy of 40 properties right now. And, but I also had to be cognizant of the cash flow part. And so that was kind of the aha that kind of I forgot that Steve reminded me that we had done back in 2016 when I did this with him on 6 properties, was that we could actually use, more or less move some of the funds from the 1031 over to the property management account. And so that sort of gives me the reserves to cover, whatever else happens. And, stuff happens. I mean, we had one that while it was an escrow, the air conditioner went out. So we split the cost of that, right? Just the way that it goes. But I think that, one of my big challenges, and I try never to get on a high horse because everyone's in different financial situations but I have a lot of friends in the mortgage space who really made an absurd amount of money in 2021, 2020, early 22, when interest rates were low, and they're all flat broke now because they just haven't done the right things with their money. And you're talking to someone, I mean, I was, negative net worth in 2010. So I'm not, shining shade on other people who've been in bad financial situations. I've been there, myself. I had to dig out of that hole, but I learned from my mistakes and made better choices. In the mortgage industry, we call ourselves the captain of the financial team. And oftentimes they're not that financially fit. And so for me, that was really my focus. My focus was, how do I increase my assets? How do I protect my cash flow? And it's just what I always loved, getting out there and now being able to, teach and talk about in groups like this.
Super cool, because you think about, I think all of us have probably sat under at least one study of 1031 exchange, but this is like next level. It's like next level when you're talking about taking that many properties and making them all meet the criteria. Because just when you're looking at, I mean, Steve, you had a portfolio of, what'd you say, 100 properties to go through? Mm-hmm. So Todd, you're evaluating each of the mortgages that are on those properties. First of all, you guys pay attention. Those properties are leveraged, they're mortgaged, right? Like that's an actual important piece of your investment side, watching your cash flow and how much you're putting in each property. That's just a side note. But when you're looking at those, like, what were you evaluating on the mortgage side? Like, what had to happen for you to make this work? Like, how did you identify which properties?
It was interesting for me, and I'll be really transparent on it, and then I got to jump in a couple of minutes. But, one thing that Steve did was he provided me great information, right? He and Wendy have the construction company. So I was able to look at what properties were partially renovated, fully renovated, not renovated. I had access to the rents, I had access to other fees, and then I had, access to the mortgage information. And so, I looked at it, right, lowest mortgages first. I looked at it, best quality properties. I looked at it from the cash flow perspective, and I had to kind of come up with, well, what was the right mix of properties? That's why my original goal was 10 properties, and I ended up increasing it to 14 just to kind of have a good mix on it. And so I think you always have to have, what's your model, right? I go back to that spreadsheet that Steve gave us back last summer where he said, hey, here's my model for when I'm doing flips. And so I just had to create the model that worked for me and then kind of work backwards. And then I had to get some feedback from Steve, right? Because Steve ended up in the middle of it. One of the properties that we had in there, he had a team member who wanted to move into it himself and do a seller carry deal. And I'm like, of course, let him do that. That's a good opportunity for him. And then, we had another property that we could put in there since I wasn't heart set on anything. And so, I mean, a lot of that is just sort of understanding, what your what kind of your minimum standard is. For me, and I was really focused on lots of different data points, and then had to prioritize those in order to make what was kind of the best portfolio for me out of what was available from Steve.
How long did this transaction take?
Like 60 days, 90 days.
Yeah, I would say, I think we're closer to 90 out, because what happened was it was kind of like loose talk until finally, we knew that the building was closing, because, commercial stuff doesn't close quite like residential stuff does. So once it was closed, then the rubber hits the road, right? Because then I had 90 days to identify and 180 days to close.
Right. So that, because people take that long with one property. That's why I asked, like, the time. It's hard. It's crazy.
I do want to make a really, really valid point for any of you that are in this beat up struggle bus of wanting to get investments and where you're at in your career. And I want you to take note of what Todd said, where he was negative net worth in 2010, which I was right alongside him. Like, our knowledge of what money and how it worked prior to 2010, and not planning things out, and not being good stewards of our money, and not looking at opportunities. The downfall that we both had was actually our awakening event of, I better know how the financing and the shit works and how to capture opportunities as things go forward. So for all of you, just take a look. I mean, I know it's a 15-year run, but 2010 was really where I got our ass handed to us. But for me, it wasn't really until 2015 that I started to realize all the learning lessons from all the losses. And it's always in the back of my mind of, what is truly possible with what we do. And especially, somebody said it from stage last week, and they're like, Valentine's just the guy that kind of fucks around and finds out. Sometimes he loses, sometimes he wins, but he learns from every time he fucks around and finds out. And that's the career path over the last 10 years, is like, I can either
I got to jump, so
pain.
I got to jump, but I appreciate you all. And yeah, happy to continue this conversation later here with Steve and you, Kimberly, or one-on-one. If anyone ever wants to chat, just reach out to me. I'd love to connect.
Thanks for
Appreciate it,
helping.
Todd.
Thanks for sharing.
It just goes into showing you guys that it's absolutely possible to start to understand this financial and unravel it. And every time you get into something, it's the practice and it's understanding. It's like being on this call and going, how does that work? What does it look like? If I haven't done one, how am I going to do 14? Right. And it's learning how to navigate certain things. And every time it's like the simple things. You know what one of the biggest benefits to Todd doing that 1031 with me personally is, and without doing new loans? Because you can't take and move the $1 million at 1031 exchange number. You can't move it around and manipulate the cash where it goes. But when you have a buyer and seller that can go through it, as a seller, I can pay his cash to his property management company as a credit as much as I want, because there's no lender to dictate what I can and can't do in the numbers. And the 1031 exchange company doesn't care as long as the cash doesn't go back to him. So there's a lot of lessons that I learned. I'm like, wait, if I can do a seller credit, raise the price by 30 grand per property and credit his management account, then it sets him up with reserves. It allows us to use all the money in the 1031 exchange. So it's every time it's, what did I learn? And then how can I help somebody else? Right. And so you just keep plugging this. So I really encourage you guys that if you're not in the investment and the problem solving space, start learning, start practicing, like where are the obstacles, so that you do get to a point like this. And investing in real estate, what some people, I think I originally started, which is you're looking at cash flow and you're looking at wealth and all these things. And I realized, like, I have all these pieces that I just get to solve problems. And when I sell one, then we replace it with something else. But it's cool to be able to have a phone call and go, yeah, I can swipe 14 homes out and go here, right? Make some money, move it around, and then move it into something else. So it's it takes intentional consistency to practice in the investment and the financial side, which is a tremendous value to your clients. It also is going to increase your business and your sales through any market that goes on, because you can switch to some of those conversations, the money and the finances, and it makes you market proof. When you can switch from traditional to investment, you can go in any different direction and it doesn't make a difference what the market is doing.
So Steve, so when you say keep having these experiences, keep getting involved and getting in the way of that, that's not typical for the typical real estate agent, right? Because they don't have that many at bats necessarily. They don't have that many conversations or don't know how to drive that conversation. How do they, if they're going to learn this, how do they learn it? What do they do?
Wait, can I piggyback too?
Yeah.
Can I
Jamie?
answer that question, Kim? Because Steve, I remember hearing something a long time ago where something about your saving strategy early on, about how you would can you speak on that too? Do you know what I'm talking about? Does that
my saving strategy early on when I was broke was just take 5% of every commission and deposit it in a bank account that I didn't have access to, just to build reserves, right?
Cut up the cost.
Kim, the practical tactical is this. If you want to invest, then you have to practice. You have to start knowing the numbers. The easiest way I can tell you, find the wholesale deals that are out there Or look at MLS. The easiest thing is look at vacant MLS fix up needs repair in a search criteria. Pick something 10 miles from you and go every time one of those pops up, go walk it, act like a buyer, do your social media on it, talk about it, cut up the numbers, and figure out where you would have to buy it to make it work. Most people are not willing to do this work and look at things over and over and over again. The reason being is that if you give me an address in Maryville, I can tell you pretty much what I can pay for it or not pay for it. If you give me an address on the west side, like, you start to be skilled at seeing opportunities and being able to run through them very quickly if you practice them. If you don't have somebody live to practice on, by the way, I don't advise you practicing on live people.
Right.
Yet,
That's kind of my point, right? Yeah.
But it is super fun to say, hey, I have a goal this week to write 2 offers on investment properties. They could be the worst offers. You think you're going to offend somebody, and guess what? Get over it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Take the heat going, hey, I'm new at this. Like, I'm just looking for properties. If this one doesn't work, do you have something else I could look at? Like, how do you drum those conversations up? And by the way, just so everybody knows, like 75% of the houses that I buy come from you guys. They come from the agent relationships because they trust the process that I can come in and solve and buy and everybody gets paid. And that's what's been built. And we all have that ability to do it through our spheres. Every time you guys do a cross transaction with an agent, you should be asking, like, hey, if you ever come across a hoarding house or something like that, I'd look for the first opportunity to take a look at it. You might not be able to do something with it, but can you connect the dots with me? Can we do it together? Right? It's getting out of the shell of realizing you don't have to do it by yourself, and you should invest in something that's going to get you from point A to point B. I see too many people try to do the investment game by themselves, and it goes sideways because the variables are all different.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of value to what you just said about just testing the water. I think there's a lot of people who have no interest in doing this, but want a piece of the financial side of it, right? And so it's the whole, I don't really want to do the work, I just want to get paid. But that's possible by that referral relationship. That agent still wins. There's an income element for them, a revenue element for them. It's not going to be the same as if it were making that investment and learning the process. But some people aren't going to want to, but that doesn't mean you can't be part of it in terms of transferring and referring property.
Let me give you something that I've been really, really fired up about recently with the agents is all of us have been doing it a long time, and all of us feel that in real estate as agents, we need to be doing everything. And it's always for the income to get to the next level, whatever that is.
Right.
So I'm going to encourage you, all of you, to really think. This is new from Tammy, who's taking over our operations now, which is we run everything through a litmus test. And the litmus test is, does it bring me joy? Does it increase revenue? Does it decrease in expenses? And does it fit in my 3-year plan? So if you take that and you say, hey, I don't know who on this call wants to experiment with flips, but here's the deal with flips. It's not for everybody. It's not for the faint of the heart. It's not for the people that are like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my life savings if this doesn't go right. Do not do that. Okay. I think most people want to flip houses because they think it's a huge win monetarily. What most people don't understand is it's a huge freaking risk and gamble if you don't know what you're doing. And the reality is the really smart people that are just like, hey, flipping sucks. I don't want to do this. I don't have contractors. I don't want to go through the pain. Cool, don't. But it doesn't mean that you can't be prepared for opportunities and go, hey, I'm not flipping houses. It doesn't fit in my wheelhouse. But if I come up with an opportunity, I have 2 cash buyers that I can connect with and make money on this thing right now. Because it doesn't fit in my long-term vision and I need to create income, maybe I'll flip down the road when I have a partner or something of that nature, but it doesn't fit into my wheelhouse, and stop beating yourself up because I'm not doing flips and I'm not doing this. Maybe you're not meant to. And that's okay. Like, I can tell all of you, like, the only reason we do flips is because it's a process in-house. It's a process moving through contractors and those types of things. Otherwise, I'd be doing what other people do, which is just connecting the dots with investors and going, cool, I can make 10 grand, I can make 20 grand by seeing the opportunity. And that's where, if we get really good on our numbers, you don't have to be the investor. You just have to be the dot connector. but dot connectors get paid for doing the work to find the deal and create the spread for the investor. It's not what the wholesale market looks like, where it's like, cool, I got an old person to say yes to a retail number, throw shit against the wall, and then go email blast it to 100 investors and then wonder why it didn't sell. It's because you didn't do your job. I will gladly pay the person that brings me something that has a spread in it. That's the goal. And by the way, any of us can do that behind our computer screens if you get really good at negotiating the numbers and finding the things. It's the same thing as wholesaling, but you don't have to do the work. You just have to connect the dots.
Yeah. And I think figuring out like how to stay in your lane, I think we hear so many of those, it's a big, cash windfall. So if Fred can do it, then I can do it. Right. And if I can do it, then Steve can do it. And so it's just not true. Like, we've done a series of them. They were successful. I don't want to do that kind of work anymore. I don't want that. I don't want it hanging over. I would rather connect the dots and let somebody else do it, take my portion and move on. Right. I like to buy and hold. I like to do VRBOs. Like I have a different investment strategy. Steve hates VRBOs now, right? You went through the VRBO thing. That's not your jam. I love them. I think they're super fun.
Well, let's call it what it is. I don't hate them. It's not a good investment vehicle for me for time and energy.
Right.
I fucked around, find out, didn't like it, and I sold them.
Right.
I didn't stay in that path of like, I don't like this, so I'm just going to keep it. I got rid of it. Right.
Right. Because that's not your wheelhouse.
By the way, some of you also need to be told like, hey, or be given permission. If you don't love the traditional space, then go into the investment space. If you like the non-emotional, the numbers, the things, then turn it around. I mean, that's really where my passion is. It went from years of traditional real estate to, wait, I kind of like the investing thing and I can always do the traditional side, but the investing became more fun because there's more to do on a daily basis. There's more to get in trouble with.
Yeah. And you want to spend your time doing that? I don't. I want you to spend your time doing that. So I would rather send people to you so you could do it because you have the genius and I'm not going to take the time to learn it in full transparency, right? Like I don't want it. I know it's okay. To be dangerous. I just don't want to spend a whole bunch of time there. So
but I think on top of that, that's one of the things where we go back to where we all think that the busier we are, the more income that should happen. It's actually being smarter in this business. And it's the thing that I keep tying into, which is how can I, like one of my trackable, measurable goals this year is to receive 2 incoming referrals and send 4 out. So if you don't want to show houses, then cool. That's one of the reasons in my community, the garage, I'm like, cool, I have 35 personalities to send referrals to. I don't always have to do the work, and I'm encouraging them to do the same. If somebody calls and they want to see an Apache Junction and you're in Verrado, do the referral. Keep your energy where you want to go rather than driving 2 hours to go to somewhere you really don't know. But we're all trying to learn. But I'm telling you, like, when you do that, this is what happens. Follow me for a second. So if I take a house and I've got a buyer in Apache Junction, I'm just better off referring it to Caitlin and let her deal with it and work with a client rather than spending how many hours in the car back and forth to Apache Junction. Do you think that I can spend the same 2 hours going back and forth from Apache Junction to find another investment property while Caitlin is working that client? This is the mindset that we start to look at is like when we're tripping over, pennies to pick up dollars when we try to hoard everything. And then we also get we've all met the agents. We come in the door like, oh my God, I've been to every freaking side of the valley today. When you could have like kept your semblance and gone, cool, I have this person over here to work with. I'm going to make sure my client's taken care of and somebody's always going to be there and I'm going to get paid for that. And you think like, man, I've got 4 of those working right now and I can just sit here and buy another house while all that stuff is happening. It's getting into the things that you truly love and starting to figure out how you can connect the dots and make money. And also realizing like, oh, I like this part of the business. I want to do a little bit more of this and a little less of this. Well, if you're going to do less of this, don't just stop doing it. Who can you work with? Who can your partner be? How can you take care of your clients by having this connection over here?
Well, we talk about highest and best use for property. We need to start talking about highest and best use of our own gifts and talents and desires, right? Like, how do you want to use your time and what do you want to do? And honestly, it goes, I don't know, the concept of, your life by design, right? It's a little bit about what I was trying to explain earlier about, hey, look at the stuff that's in your life, work on some of that stuff, because the rest of this stuff can come to fruition. It's the same thing in your business world. Look at what things you really, really like to do and figure out how to niche down and make that happen, and how you can build partnerships to have other people do the other stuff. I mean, that's essentially what we're talking about. We're licensed as realtors to sell burial grounds, campsites. Like, we have all sorts of weirdo stuff that's included in our licenses that I'm going to guess that the majority of us have never sold a burial plot, right? But we can. If that's your thing, then go find a way to do a whole bunch of that, right? Like, it's okay to have a big referral network. I think personally, I love the thought of a massive referral network, right? I don't want to do some things anymore. So I want to be able to have people that I refer. I refer all of my business out, all of my past client stuff and the things I accidentally run into. I don't do it, but I'm happy to take a referral fee and let you go do it. I can help you build your career and get more experience. You can help me save my time. It's a great concept, right? So figuring this out, same thing in the investment side. If it's not your thing, you have people that you can refer to. You have people that you can collaborate with and you can learn from if it is your thing, right? You have to be willing to do the work. It's good. Anybody have any questions or any thoughts you want to share? Danielle Zampino's on this call, and she just closed her first big flip, I think.
Yeah, it's under contract now, and we're just wrapping up the inspection period, and it should be closing up here at the end of the month. But it's been a really great experience partnering with Steve on this one. One of those really cool things where it just aligns, where you find an opportunity and you have the right person to bring it to and partner with and learn and grow and, get a lot of fun lessons along the way. Like how not to lock yourself out of a house that you've built, the little things, right? But like doing that myself would have been such a bigger learning curve versus just partnering with somebody that has been there, done that, can get you through a lot more smoothly and allow you to kind of take the reins on the things that you're good at and, guide you through on the things that you're not good at yet. So.
Yeah, congratulations. It's a big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a question, actually, of course.
Sure,
But
Jamie.
Steve, with your, I'm curious as to your mentality of the number of properties you have and why that amount, and besides the monetary part of it, like what's your main driver in acquiring so many properties? Like, how does it bring you? What's your whatever?
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
I love that. I love that question, Jamie, because it's something we're in the middle of. And one of the things we get into this business is we're taught one way to do things, and we become conditioned to it. And rarely do we stop and ask the question, why am I doing it and what for? So, Jamie, the question on the properties is a great question. And then over the last year, beforehand, when we kept buying properties, it had to do with ego and keeping up with appearance, right? When I got to 50 properties, that's where I should have stopped, because that was my goal. 50 properties producing $50,000 a month in cash flow, free and clear by the time I was 50. I didn't stick to the goal. We kept keeping properties, right? We just could. And the way it was working, the way it was functioning. Now you go back to it, it's like somebody started asking me pre-rehab, why so many? Why so complicated? Why are you doing this to yourself? And it made me question, like, am I trying to keep up with the Joneses? Am I trying to keep up with all the things that I've said from stage? And then I started tracking over the last year. I'm like, what if I did the weird thing and everybody looked at me like I'm strange because I'm contradicting what I've been teaching over the years? Is I am and I'm not. Right now, Wendy and I have agreed that we're going to sell everything that we own over the next 2 years, except for our primary, our commercial building, and our second home. Reason being is that we've learned so much over the last decade that I can build the same portfolio faster, harder, stronger, and with better positions than I can keeping the current properties that I have.
Mhm.
So once you make that idea that everything's up on the chopping block, it allows me to be creative with Todd and go, cool, I brought some cash in and I kept some equity in that portfolio. So while I brought some cash into the business, which is awesome, I also kept equity. So there's a little bit of a cash flow being built there. And so the properties was more of a ego driven. And now I'm looking at it from a cash flow perspective of everything that I'm looking at. What can I build for cash flow? And the properties just help me get there. So at the end of it, just so you guys can really see the play in this, we owned 100 properties that were rentals. I have zero of my own money in that freaking portfolio. We did it strategically in how we bought it, how we financed it, how we refinanced it. Now here's where the money that I did put in the portfolio. There was definitely several months that it was negative between 5 and 10 grand. But remember, I didn't put 80 grand down per property times 100, do the math.
Right.
I did it through equity purchases and acquisitions. So floating that over time did really well, creating the equity. But now if I look at it, by the time I'm 50, I sell everything. I come back to 10 properties that are free and clear. It's almost producing what my goal set is, but I have zero. I'm at zero debt, which you go 15 years before, I was negative $1.4 million in debt. Now we'll be zero debt with several million in liquidity by using the portfolio. And then we're going to go back into some other things that are creating that cash flow that we know how to build better. So that was the purpose, Jamie.
So can I just jump in really fast on that, Steve? So when you're talking about you're getting rid of all of your properties because the position on some of those properties, now you know more. So you know that that's not the optimal position, right? So getting rid of those, going back and rebuilding, taking the knowledge you have from all of this experience and now being able to have fewer properties with better positioning. That's your, if I sum up what you're saying, that's what I'm hearing.
Yep.
Okay. So I think for those of us in the room that are not investors and we don't see ourselves that way, or we are still super intimidated, just ballpark, how many mistakes did you make in the process of buying 100 properties?
Oh, in numbers, probably $3 million worth of freaking losses, like over time for learning. And then there's thousands of mistakes. We learn something new every time.
Okay. That's the point.
Every
Did you have $3 million to lose?
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. So, and you're still alive and you're doing fine. You learned from these things. This is what I want to demonstrate for people. Like we want to do something, but we're so intimidated or we're so scared about something that we halt and we don't do anything. So technically in my book, that means if you're not going forward, you're going backward, you're losing because the world keeps moving. You've been able to take all of these properties and experiences, learn what you need to learn. Now you can get rid of the ego and say, listen, there's no pride in owning 100 properties if they're not positioned correctly. You have 100 problems if they're not positioned correctly. Now you can go back and burn it down and go, listen, I can do the same thing with 10 properties because I know how to position them better. And it gives me freedom to go invest in other areas and do other things. So I just want to encourage, yeah, go ahead.
Let me give you guys a great example of the learning curve, right? So the learning curve, most of us are at a point when we think about investing, it's one rental, one tenant. It may or may not cash flow depending on what we buy, plus repairs and all those things. And we hope that it appreciates and all the things. The great news for us is we also have a great tax advantage to owning real estate. I always have to own real estate because of the depreciation measure and what it does for our taxes. So that's always going to be a thing. But now, 10 years later, we just look at things different. So what I just exchanged with Todd, let's say 4 of those properties was worth 1.2 million. Well, now I'm looking at a property for the same 1.2 million, and those properties were probably $200 a month cash flow. Now I'm looking at the same property that has multiple buildings on it in Sunburst Farms and multiple flexibility, that I can take the same 1.2 number and turn it into $6,000 a month in cash flow because there's multiple uses and because of the multiple connections I have in different spaces. Now I look at that property and go, cool, I can do the same price, one property that takes me 10 properties to create $6,000 a month in cash flow. And I can do it in one. This is where the shift is, right? It's also taking the vacant suite that we had in our commercial building and turning it into a broker agnostic membership that's $200 a month. At 35 memberships, I now cash flow $7,000 a month on that one piece of real estate. So just taking those 2 pieces of real estate has increased my cash flow dramatically over the single family homes that I once thought were the end all be all. So as I've grown and I've learned and I've done more, but it started here. Because the one rental property gives you an idea. It lets you go through it. You like it, you don't like it. You go through a VRBO, you like it, you don't like it. And you start to experiment with these rather than just saying, I don't like that because of somebody else's opinion. And this is where most of us go. We take somebody else's opinion, whether it's a client or another agent, and we don't try something because of their poor experience, right? We've all heard an agent like, I lost so much money flipping houses, the stupidest thing in the world. You're like, well, you probably shouldn't have bought it from a wholesaler. You probably should have invested in some learning, and you probably should have known what you were doing before you did it. But now we just took that person's experience and we made it our own and said, I'm never going to do that because somebody else lost money, but we really don't know what's behind the scenes of them losing money. So until we do it ourselves, we're not going to know. And that's why the whole FAFO, which is do it, right? Figure out if you like it. If you don't, freaking don't do it again. But here's the other value. 1000% hands down, because of what you're about to endeavor in the investing side, it makes you more valuable and it allows you to open up more conversations with people. It allows you to be more valuable in different spaces to guide through in the conversation. And by the way, those conversations, you don't have to be the head. You're like talking to someone like, yeah, I'm thinking about buying 4 properties and doing a 1031. And Nicole's like, hey, we need to partner with Steve on this because I don't know anything about this, but we're going to wrap this up. Rather than going at it and going, I'm going to do this by myself and see if I F around and find out and whether I make money or I lose money, rather than taking the time to go, I need to learn this for my own good so that if I know I can do it or I need to connect somebody, but one way or another, I can make money and learn from it.
Yeah. I was also going to say, sometimes it's the flip of that. You take on somebody's negative experience, but sometimes you're taking on someone's positive experience and you have still missing that key element of the education, right? Like, oh,
good point.
If you can make $1 million doing it, certainly I can. And then you just watch people tank, right? So the critical factor on both sides of that scale is getting in the right relationships and making sure that you're getting the right kind of education and exposure. Danielle, I think, did a really smart thing. She partnered with you, right? I'm not going to take the lion's share of everything. I don't know what your financial agreement was, but there's a portion of like, we're partnering. You're this percentage partner. I'm this percentage partner. This is how we're going to learn this. That's paying for your education. There's no shame in that. And you can still win and you learn, So Steve, thanks for pivoting with us today. I did hear from Robert, and I am the one who fouled him up. And so he will be here, I think, on the 31st, and we will definitely want to hang out with this cat because he's pretty stinking smart. So thanks for playing today, you guys. Appreciate you so much. I will not be here next week, but Reagan Nicholson will be managing. Reagan and Karen will be hanging out, managing all of it, and he'll be speaking and teaching. So appreciate you all. Have a really great week.
Thank you.